In today's video, I will be showing you how to improve the performance of BlueStacks. If you are playing some games and you notice that you keep getting frame drop, or the games just keep freezing and lagging, then with a bit of luck, following the methods that I show in this video will resolve those issues. But before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button below if you enjoyed this video and it did help, and also subscribe to this channel. We have almost hit 40,000 subscribers, and it really would be nice to hit 40,000 subscribers before the end of February. So the first thing you need to do is just ensure you have the latest graphics card drivers installed for your graphics card. To do this, all you need to do is head on over to the manufacturer's website for your graphics card, whether you've got an Nvidia, an AMD or an Intel graphics card. Go to the site and download the drivers and install them. I will put links in the description below on how to install the drivers for an Nvidia graphics card and an Intel, and I will hopefully be doing a video on how to install graphics card drivers for an AMD, if I do manage to get hold of an AMD graphics card. The next thing you want to do is just ensure you have the latest Windows 10 updates installed. To do this, all we need to do is open the start menu, and you now need to type in update. You now need to click on check for updates, and you now need to click on check for updates. Windows will now check to see if you have the latest updates installed, and as you can see, I do have the latest updates installed, but if you didn't, then it will then download those updates and install them. Once you have finished installing the latest updates, restart your PC, and you then need to click on the link that's in the description below. You will then end up on a page that looks like this. We now need to scroll down, and you now need to select your language. We now need to press download, and you then need to go save file. We now need to run this setup file, and you now need to agree to the terms. If you agree, press I accept and go next. And we don't want to install Bing Bar unless you do. And then go next again, and it will now install the latest DirectX to our Windows 10 PC or laptop. If it doesn't find a newer version, as you can see I do have the latest version installed, then that's fine. But if yours did start installing, then that's fantastic news. Go ahead and press finish once it's done. And now you have installed the latest graphics card drivers. We have also checked we have the latest Windows 10 updates, and you have now checked you have the latest DirectX installed. It's now time to boot up BlueStacks and go ahead and launch a game and see if the game is running smoother. If it's still not running very smooth, then the next thing we want to do is open the start menu, and you now need to type in defrag, and you now need to open up defragment and optimize drives. You now need to select your C drive, but only if you don't have a solid state drive. As you can see, I have an SSD drive, so I do not want to optimize my drive because it can reduce the life of my drive. But if you just have a normal hard disk drive like these ones here, go ahead and click optimize, and then once it's finished optimizing, go ahead and run BlueStacks. And also, if you do have other hard drives, go ahead and optimize those drives as well, as this can really help boost the performance of Windows and also BlueStacks. And that's why we're watching this video. This is what the video is all about. If unfortunately that still haven't sorted out the issues, then we now want to right click on the taskbar and go to Task Manager. You now need to go across to Startup, and you now need to go through this list and just right click on any programs you do not need to launch with Windows, as these will have an effect on the performance as well. For example, I have Steam. I don't need that to launch with Windows. It is currently disabled, but if I right click, I could then click disable to disable this. Once you have gone through the list, the next thing we want to do is go ahead and restart our computer, and then launch up BlueStacks and then try it again. If unfortunately that didn't help, then you now want to make sure you don't have any security software on your PC that could be causing the issues. So you've got two options. You could go ahead and disable the security, but just remember you will not be protected by any viruses or anything like that while the security is disabled. But you could then quickly check BlueStacks to see if it's running smoothly with the security disabled. If it is, then you need to add BlueStacks to an exception list in your antivirus. Or the other option is a lot of antivirus programs now actually have an option to enable the virtualization. So see if your antivirus program allows you to enable virtualization and then launch BlueStacks and see if that helped as well, as that really can help boost up the performance. Also, whilst we're on the subject of virtualization, it's also worth making sure you have virtualization enabled in your BIOS. And to see if you have actually got it enabled within Windows, all you need to do is click on Performance, and as you can see here, it says virtualization enabled, which means I have actually enabled it in the BIOS. If you're unsure on how to do this, I will also put a link to a video in the description below on how to enable virtualization. For this would be for my hardware, so it might be slightly different on your system, but it is normally the same sort of process. Now the next thing we want to do is open up BlueStacks. After you've tried all that, and if you're still having issues with the performance in BlueStacks, we now want to open up BlueStacks and click on the little burger menu, or 3 lines, whatever you want to call it, and then click on Settings. You now want to select Engine, and you now want to go to CPU and ensure you have the maximum cores selected. As you can see, I can select 4 cores, which is absolutely perfect. You could go on custom and type in a custom number, but it's best to just use the settings that BlueStacks offers. So I've got 4 cores selected. Obviously, if you can't select a higher cores, it will be down to enabling the virtualization in your BIOS. We then want to go to RAM and just ensure we have the maximum RAM selected. I mean, RAM, you could go custom and then see if you can bump it up more. But as you can see, it only allows me to go 4 gig anyway. When it comes to the graphics engine, you now want to leave performance mode on, and with the graphics renderer, I like to use OpenGL. I find it runs a lot smoother, but earlier on when we installed DirectX, if your system did install a newer version of DirectX, it might be worth a pop of just trying DirectX and seeing if that helps. Because technically, if you do have a decent graphics card, DirectX should actually run a lot better than OpenGL. But like I said, I actually find OpenGL runs nice and smooth on my PC anyway. If you scroll down a bit more, we then have the preferred dedicated computer graphics. You want to make sure you have this selected, because as you can see, it's now using my GTX 1660 Super graphics card. If we scroll down a little bit more, you then want to have this option here disabled, and then we want to have our frames set to 60, but if you do keep finding your games very glitchy and drops in frames a lot, then tone this down a bit. Drop it down to 30 frames per second. 30 is still nice and smooth, and it might actually help make the games run a lot smoother. If we scroll down a little bit more, you want to make sure these options here are disabled. You could try FreeSync if you have a decent graphics card. This will stop screen tearing, but I do like to keep that option off as well. The next thing we want to look at is display. I'm just going to discard the changes. We now want to change the resolution, make sure it's on landscape, but we want to actually change the size. So the best thing to do with resolution is actually work your way up from a smaller size to the bigger size. So if we use a 960 by 540, it would actually run a lot smoother for the games, because it doesn't have to produce those graphics for such a high resolution. So it will run a lot smoother. So I highly recommend you try starting from the lowest and then working your way up. When you start having a lot of stuttering and frame drop it back down to the original resolution. But before you change that, also drop the DPI to 160 and work your way up as well. So once you find a decent resolution, you can then try the DPI and change it back to 240 and then maybe even 320 if you're lucky. But you're watching this video, so I highly unlikely doubt you'll be able to run it at 320. So other than that, that is all the BlueStacks settings that we will be looking at and changing. This is the best method of improving the frames per second in the game by lowering the resolution and also the DPI. I hope you did enjoy this video, and I really hope it did help. Like I said at the start of the video, if you could like this video and also subscribe, every like and subscribe, it really does help us produce more content. And also one last thing that I forgot to mention, you can always right click on the taskbar as well and open up Task Manager again. And then if you find BlueStacks, as you can see BlueStacks is here, if we right click it and then go to the process, so actually you've got to expand it and then right click BlueStacks there, and then if we then go to the details and then it'd be under details, we now need to right click on BlueStacks and set the priority to above normal and change priority. This can actually really help as well, but you do need to change this every time you launch BlueStacks. So anyway, that is it for this video. I will see you all in the next video.